Welcome. I'm Jörg Schladerer. I'm a Program Director at the National Science Foundation, where I help manage the Graduate Research Fellowship Program.
And I'm Susan Brennan. I'm also a Program Director at the Graduate Research Fellowship Program.
Today we will describe our program, the Graduate Research Fellowship Program.
And we'll also tell you how to create a competitive application and a little bit about the review process.
The National Science Foundation is an independent federal agency that was created in 1950. The mission of our agency is to promote the progress of science, to advance the national health, prosperity and welfare, and also to secure the national defense. It funds approximately 20% of all federally supported basic research conducted by America's colleges and universities. Since 1952, NSF has issued fellowships every year. The Graduate Research Fellowship Program has two major goals. The first is to select, recognize, and financially support individuals who have demonstrated the potential to be high-achieving scientists and engineers early in their careers. The second goal is to broaden participation in science and engineering of underrepresented groups, including veterans, minorities, women, and persons with disabilities. The Graduate Research Fellowship Program aims to recruit individuals into science, technology, engineering, or mathematics, or STEM. We offer a 5-year award that is worth a total of $138,000. Within that 5-year period, you receive a stipend of 3 years, which is currently set at $34,000 per year. For each of those 3 years, your institution will also receive $12,000 as an educational allowance. This is used to cover your tuition and fees. You might wonder what advantages the fellowship provides during the remaining 2 years. During the 5-year period, you can take advantage of professional development opportunities. For example, GROW, Graduate Research Opportunities Worldwide, where you could go to one of the partner countries of NSF and participate in research projects which help you to progress in your thesis research project. Or you could join a federal partner agency or laboratory to participate in an internship opportunity known as the Graduate Research Internship Program, or GRIP. Both of these opportunities are described in the solicitation and in separate Dear Colleague letters. Also, you will have access to a supercomputer through the EXCEED program. And if necessary, you could take advantage of NSF's Career-Life Balance program. For example, if you have to be absent from your research laboratory for reasons such as caring for your family, becoming a parent, or for health reasons, you can apply to NSF for up to 3 months of salary support for a technician who could conduct research on your behalf. Now we would like to share with you the unique features that are affiliated with the Graduate Research Fellowship Program. This program does not make awards to specific projects or institutions. We support individuals. When you receive an award, you decide which project you would like to work on. You can decide which advisor you would like to work with, and you can choose to spend your award at any graduate program that admits you. Universities and colleges love having graduate research fellows in their graduate programs. Another advantage of receiving the GRFP award is that there is no service requirement attached. This award is entirely portable, which means that you could conduct research at any accredited US institution as long as you work towards a graduate degree in STEM, either a master's degree or a doctoral degree. NSF typically issues 2,000 fellowships per year across all fields of study across the whole country. Last year, roughly 16,800 applications were received. That means the overall success rate was approximately 12%. That's relatively low. However, another group of applicants are recognized by NSF with honorable mention, meaning that they're deserving of an award if there were sufficient funding available. In general, preparing a GRFP application can get you ready to apply to graduate school and help you explore and articulate your goals. We believe that everyone who applies for a GRFP award is a winner. All the information you have to know about GRFP is published in a document called the Solicitation. We suggest you print out the most recent version of that document for careful review. The solicitation contains what you need to know about the deadlines, eligibility requirements, and the most current award information. You will receive instructions about the submission process and learn about NSF's application review criteria. Let's talk about eligibility. Not everyone is eligible to apply for a GRFP fellowship. You have to be a US citizen, national or permanent resident. You should also be early in your training, either an undergraduate student or a graduate student. You should wish to pursue a research-based graduate degree, a master's degree or a doctoral degree in any kind of STEM field. We will talk about the different fields a little bit later. But most importantly, if you apply, you should be ready to enroll in an accredited US institution by the fall after you apply for the fellowship. As a GRFP applicant, you are allowed to apply at different times in your career. What does that mean? You can apply as an undergraduate senior or as someone who has received an undergraduate degree, but who has not started graduate school yet. You can apply as a first-year graduate student, typically a month or two after you've started graduate school. If you have not applied as a first-year graduate student, then you can apply in your second year. This level of applicant has less than 12 months of graduate study by August 1st of the application year. Finally, you can apply if you had more than 12 months of graduate studies under your belt and an interruption of more than 2 years in your graduate training. Those are students who wish to come back to graduate school. How often can you apply for the Graduate Research Fellowship? It's not unusual to apply more than once. However, you're limited to one application per yearly competition. As a senior or someone with an undergraduate degree, you can apply as often as you wish before starting graduate school. However, you must be prepared to be enrolled in graduate school the fall after you win the fellowship. After you're enrolled in graduate school, there is a restriction. You can apply only once as a graduate student, either in your first year or in the second year of your graduate training. The eligible fields of study in the Graduate Research Fellowship program are listed here, ranging from chemistry to STEM education. During the application process, you have to indicate which field of study best matches the research you will do and the training you will receive in graduate school. Your selection of a field of study is used to assign your application to a review panel of professionals who will evaluate your application. This is a very critical selection, so keep that in mind. Consult with your advisor and mentors if it's unclear which panel you should apply to. The panels are listed on the NSF GRFP website. On the topic of eligibility, we have to point out areas and degree programs that are not supported. Individuals enrolled in a joint science professional degree program, for example, an MD PhD or JD PhD program, would not be eligible to receive support through GRFP. Also, any kind of business administration or management programs are not supported. Counseling, social work, education, history, except STEM education and STEM history, would not be supported. If you plan to conduct research with directly disease-related goals, you would not be eligible for the support through GRFP. Clinical research, patient-oriented research, and health services or policy research are also not supported. Let's talk about the GRFP application timeline. The solicitation is typically posted in July-August. Make sure that you understand when your specific application deadline is. It's typically at the end of October. Your reference letter writers will need to submit their letters very early in November. Between November and the end of March, NSF determines the recipients of the GRFP awards and honorable mention with input from the panels of expert reviewers. If you are offered an award, you have to accept it before May 1st, at which time you also have to declare your fellowship status. Your fellowship year begins either on June 1st or September 1st of the year after you applied.
Thank you, Jörg. Next, we'll talk about applying for a graduate research fellowship and how to prepare a competitive application. A complete application package consists of the following parts. The first part is the personal information that you list in your application, which includes your work and educational experiences, your proposed field of study, and any academic honors or scholarships that you may have received. Don't just list the name of the scholarship, say something about what it's for or why you were selected or how important it may be. Put things in context for the reviewers. Very important, you should list information about your research experiences so far, any presentations, talks, or posters, whether presented at your college or university or at an outside conference. If you've been productive enough to have publications already, do list those. Many applicants, especially early on, don't have publications yet, but if you have a paper in press or submitted or an honors thesis or even results from data that you're writing up now, some of the reviewers will want to know about those also. The reviewers vary in how they judge and weigh your achievements, so it's important to be as clear and accurate about this information as possible. Say what state all of your experiences are in. The second part is your 3-page personal statement, otherwise known as your personal relevant background and future goals statement. Now here's where you can tell your story, including explaining the details about the research experiences that you listed in the previous item. Now we'll talk more about preparing a personal statement in just a moment. And the third part is your graduate research statement, which is only 2 pages. Probably you'll spend the most time preparing these 2 statements. The fourth part consists of all of your transcripts, which you'll upload electronically. And then the last part, the 5th part, consists of your 3 letters of reference. These are due the first Thursday of November, the week after the deadline for your application. Your letter writers must get them in by the deadline, which is 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Keep in mind this is Eastern Time and not the local time of where the letter writers are located. Make sure your letter writers understand when the deadline is, especially because it was different in previous competitions. All of these details are contained in the solicitation. So let's go into detail about preparing a graduate research fellowship application. First, let's talk about your personal statement, the 3-page statement. This is where you explain your life, how your life and academic experiences demonstrate your potential for achievement in science, technology, engineering, or math, STEM research. So tell your story. Who are you and where are you going? Help the reviewers get to know you a bit. Tell them about your motivation for the field that you anticipate entering, your experiences, whether personal or professional, that contributed to your motivation for your decision to pursue STEM education in graduate school and a career in STEM. Explain how you prepared yourself for this. Also, how have your experiences shaped your goals? How have any successes, or especially any failures, motivated you? What inspires you? Have you had to overcome any obstacles? What use have you made of the resources that were available to you in your life and schooling so far? In your personal statement, be sure to provide details and examples rather than vague claims. Do talk about individual research experiences. What was the project that you worked on? What was your part in it? Where was it done? Why was it worth doing? How did your part fit in with the whole? What did you learn? Did you have to do any advanced coursework or preparation in order to do this? Try to present a coherent picture rather than just a list of seemingly unrelated experiences. In the personal statement, you should also discuss your career aspirations and goals. It's very important, as I'll discuss in detail, to address NSF's merit review criteria. As part of this 3-page statement, make sure you include separate statements that the reviewers can use to identify your intellectual merit and your broader impacts. More on that in just a moment. The second statement that's part of your graduate research fellowship application is the 2-page research statement. Here's where you describe the research that you plan to conduct in graduate school. This will help the reviewers judge your ability to plan, motivate, and conduct research, as well as your ability to think like a scientist. You'll need to be very concise in this section, just giving enough background to motivate the reasons or hypotheses behind your investigation. Do connect the dots for the reviewers who are not all experts in your topic. Make it clear to them what's innovative, original, or potentially important about your study. You'll want to display your depth of understanding of both the questions and your approach, and how to know if you've succeeded. You might also sketch out the future steps after your first project or projects, or what you might do if the data don't come out as you expect. Just as in the personal statement, you'll want to include separate statements that highlight both the intellectual merit and the broader impacts of the research that you're planning to conduct. Which brings us to NSF's merit review criteria. These review criteria are used foundation-wide. They include 2 things, intellectual merit and broader impacts. NSF evaluates all graduate research fellowship program applications as well as all research proposals on how important the proposed activity is to advancing knowledge within its own field or across different fields, intellectual merit, as well as how well does the proposed activity benefit society or advance desired societal outcomes, broader impact. Again, that's what the reviewers will be looking for, so do include both of those in both statements. Your merit and impact as an individual, as a young scientist, can be differentiated from the merit and impact of your research topic. First, here are some examples of intellectual merit that you can consider for your personal statement. How well do you plan and conduct research? How well do you work as a member of a team, as well as independently? And how well do you communicate the research and interpret it? Now let's talk about your broader impacts. Notice that these are only examples here. This is not a checklist. Coherent applications do not have all of these things, and you may well have others. Societal benefits can come from many kinds of activities. It can include the impact of you as an individual on society. Now, NSF is interested in increasing the participation of underrepresented groups, including women in some fields or underrepresented students, students with disabilities, or veterans. Again, you don't have to be underrepresented in your field, but if you've done something to broaden participation of others, you may want to talk about that. You can also have broader impacts by improving STEM education generally, or you can have impact on society by increasing scientific literacy. This can come from writing about science for the public, blogging, radio or television broadcasting about science, or you may be an active person in a science club or in a professional organization for other students. You might have brought along younger students in your field through tutoring them or other kinds of outreach. So definitely include what you may have done that could address NSF's goal to improve the competitive STEM workforce through your activities or through helping others. And of course, both the intellectual merit of your research and the broader impacts of your research on society are things you'll need to cover in the 2-page research statement. You can highlight these with headers or in other means if you wish, so that the reviewers can find them easily. So now let's go into the details of how to make your application competitive. As Jörg mentioned, many students apply for these awards, and only 2,000 every year win across all areas of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So how do you make your application competitive? Make sure you address both review criteria in both statements. Think about what counts as intellectual merit in your personal statement. Again, your academic performance, grades, the classes that you've taken as shown in your transcripts, or any awards or scholarships you may have gotten. The reviewers will look carefully at your graduate research plan, your 2-page statement, and they're interested in how you motivate the question. Do you show any kind of sophistication about how you will try to answer it in terms of the methods? Are you naive, or do you have a sense of how science works? You might talk about how you'll know if your question's answered or what you might do if things don't turn out as you expect. And again, you can sketch briefly what you may do next. For broader impacts, they'll look at the whole package for that criterion as well. They'll look at your prior accomplishments, your future plans. Essentially, we're asking these reviewers to try to predict their future. Are you going to be a high-achieving scientist? Possibly the best predictor of the future is the past. If you can show a pattern of what you've done in the past and how that can predict what you're going to do in the future, that's a good thing. Even if you're changing research areas from your undergraduate to your graduate training, that's fine, but do convey the pattern of how you think and how you achieve that addresses your potential for impact on society. Your individual experiences and details here will be very important. Now, a few words about letters of reference. For your letters, make sure you select individuals who know you well, who may have mentored you, who can speak to your potential as a graduate student and new researcher and assessing your abilities when they write your letter. It's a really good idea to educate your letter writers about the Graduate Research Fellowship Program if they're not already familiar with it. Educate them about the criteria, intellectual merit and broader impacts, and ask them if they can address these criteria on your behalf. It's a really good idea to share your research and personal statements with your letter writers, because that way they can be prompted for any experiences that they've had with you. And again, you may even want to ask different letter writers to address different parts of your application. Now, a complete application includes 3 letters of reference, but you can list up to 5 just in case. Since you're not the one who submits these, when they get submitted is not entirely under your control. So if you list 4 or 5, that makes it more likely that you'll have the 3 that you need to be received by NSF before the deadline. You should rank the letter writers if you list more than 3, and you can change that ranking right up until the deadline. NSF will look only at the top 3 ranked letter writers in your package. Now, do keep in mind that the solicitation is the official word on deadlines of all sorts. This 3-year solicitation has the letter writer deadline as the first Thursday in November. And again, it's 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So now let's talk about the review process. As you prepare your application, keep in mind your audience, which is composed of the reviewers within the field of study that you've selected, plus NSF. When you choose your field of study, look carefully at the other related fields that are included along with yours that will be looked at by your panel. Your materials will need to be understandable to all of the expert panelists assigned to review your application. Although they're all experts, it's very likely that some of them won't be researchers in your particular topic. So be very careful not to assume that the reviewers will all understand the jargon that's common in your field. Your application is assigned to a particular panel based on the field of study that you chose, but I know some of you may find this to be a tough choice if you're interdisciplinary. You may have a quandary in terms of which field of study to choose. You could ask your letter writers or your advisors for advice on that, but again, think about what kind of panel is most likely to find your topic and your field of study interesting, worthy, and that kind of thing. That could give you some input in your decision in terms of which panel to choose from if you have more than one choice. It's also a very good idea to select the primary field of study that's most closely aligned with the kind of graduate training in the program that you're joining or that you're already in. For some of you, again, that's obvious and easy, and for others, it may be trickier. So do look at the website and do consult with your advisors. So the panelists conduct what we think of as holistic review. Holistic review is a flexible, individualized way of assessing your interests and competencies, by which balanced consideration is given to experiences, attributes, academic achievements, and when considered in combination, how you've demonstrated potential for significant achievement in science and engineering. So panelists aren't actually counting things, they're looking at the big picture of you, and they're thinking about what use have you made of the opportunities available to you. The reviewers are asked by NSF to use the 2 foundation-wide review criteria and to look holistically at each and every part of your application. This includes everything you submit, not just the list of experiences, but the personal information and awards and all of that, and then both of your statements and your transcripts and your letters of recommendation. You will receive written comments from the reviewers as well, specific to your application for both intellectual merit and then a separate set of comments for broader impacts and then a summary statement. And again, the qualitative ratings that you'll receive will be E for excellent, V for very good, G for good, F for fair, or P for poor. So before you begin your applications, do start by asking yourself, what is special, unique, distinctive, or impressive about you and your life story? Certainly when you write your personal statement, you want your audience to feel like they know a little bit about you. that they understand what makes you potentially a high potential scientist. You might also discuss details of your life that might help the reviewers better understand what motivates you, what makes you tick, and what makes you different from other applicants. Keep in mind that they're reading a lot of applications. Think about conveying, make sure you've conveyed when you actually became interested and committed to your field and when you learned about it and how. And what was it about yourself that convinced you were particularly well matched to the field that you're entering. Think about whether it makes sense to convey what you've learned about the field through classes, readings, independent study, seminars, other kinds of experiences, or by being inspired by people in the field or experience you've had. Any of these things could contribute to your personal story. And what reason in general can you give the reviewers, the panelists, and NSF to be interested in supporting you in this fellowship? Just to sum up, some advice. Start early. Well, that's easier said than done sometimes, but it really is a good idea to start early and not have to rush through this because the GRFP fellowship has wonderful benefits that can really change your life as a graduate student. You should read the solicitation and read it again. It's a good idea to peruse the Graduate Research Fellowship Program's website. We have a website with lots of examples of other fellows and what they've done, their achievements. And you can see the kinds of details that I've covered partly in these remarks. As I've mentioned before, be as clear as you can for the reviewers, give them enough context, connect the dots for them. Keep in mind that even though they're experts in your field, they're not working on the same topics that you are working in. So you need to frame everything so that a scientist who isn't doing exactly what you're doing can follow. Pay a lot of attention to the merit review criteria. It's a good idea to make this findable for the reviewers, have headings about your intellectual merit and broader impacts in both of your statements. Make it easy for the reviewers. Another reason to start early is so that you have time to ask multiple colleagues to comment on your statement drafts. Make sure everything's clear to them. Also, select and confirm your letter writers early. Make sure you've set up a way to remind them as the deadline approaches. And again, if you think it will help them, you can share your statements with them. You can also monitor the receipt of their letters on the website as the deadline approaches. So now Jorg and I will tell you about some resources that you can use as you prepare your application.
I would like to point out two websites. The first one is the official NSF website, nsf.gov/GRFP. There you will find the solicitation. nsfgrfp.org features videos and additional material which will help you with crafting a competitive application package.
And to look forward, you could take a look at the Grip and Grow parts of the website. These have to do with the additional funding opportunities available to our fellows. GROW, or Graduate Research Opportunities Worldwide, and GRIP, Graduate Research Internship Program, list the federal agencies in which some of our fellows work, as well as the foreign countries in which they can do research.
If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us by email or phone. Best of luck with your GRFP application.
Good luck!